listening to Pop This, the podcast where three women talk about pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen, Andrea Gin, and Andrea Warner.
So just a little apology. I might sound a little bit tired because...
Relaxed.
Chill. Because I've got a little thing called jet lag. And honestly, can there be more of a humble brag than jet lag? I mean, there can't be anything more pretentious than complaining about jet lag.
You know what? Can I just break in here? I was just listening to some of our old episodes, and I was listening to the one where you complain about other people's talking about complaining about jet lag.
I know.
And here you are.
Yeah, well,
here you are.
I'm also not above being a hypocrite. That's never been a problem for me. So yes, I was in Europe, in Spain and Portugal to be specific. And while I can tell you about the wedding I went to, it was fantastic, but I just want to skip ahead. Right. I could tell you about, I'd never been to Lisbon in Portugal and ate all this food, but as we all know who listen to this podcast, there was a celebrity sighting. And I wasn't expecting this in Lisbon, of all places, to have a celebrity sighting. And so I feel like now, if anyone asks how my trip was, I kind of start with this and I feel a little bit bad because I'm like, oh my gosh, I've really let celebrity take over in my life. But then who am I kidding? That's who I am, right? That's exactly who I am.
Exactly. So it's totally on brand.
It's totally on brand for me. So there I was. Picture this. I had spent the day in a place outside of Lisbon called Sintra. Have either of you been to Lisbon or to Portugal?
No.
Okay.
Not even the country.
So Sintra is only about an hour outside of Lisbon by train. And everyone goes there because they have a lot of castles that you can see, which are quite amazing, including, they kept calling it a Moorish castle. And I'm like, so is it or isn't it? Moorish? Like what?
Nice.
But it was built in the 1100s on the top of it was a real, the Moors did come over and build it. And so I climbed around on that. And then I went to another castle, got lost walking around a hill, had lunch, got lost again, finally made it onto a train, and I met some girl from Kansas City, Missouri. We chatted on the train. We took the wrong train. Then anyway, just to let you know, it was very hot there. I was a sweaty mess. I was tired. I'd been walking hills. I was probably slightly a little bit drunk from having a beer in the afternoon. And then there I am walking along to my apartment that I rented, just walking along this kind of the seaway. And all of a sudden I notice, wow, that woman is incredibly beautiful and striking. And she's walking toward me. And then I realized it was 80s supermodel Paulina Poroskova.
Wow.
And she is walking toward me. And I thought, what do I do? What do I do? Like, this is everything.
Star of music videos of our youth.
Married to Rick Ocasek from the Cars. Also now, like, just this fantastic, what's what I'm looking for, a representative of women aging gracefully. And her Instagram account took off and everyone loves her. And here I am. So I walked past her like 2 steps and then I thought, I've got to do this. So I turned and I went, excuse me. And anyway, I chatted with her for a bit.
Was she happy to be stopped, or was she like?
Oh, she was very happy. She was very sweet. She went. I said, I know who you are, and she was kind of mock sheepish thing there, and then I said, I'm a big fan. This is so exciting to meet you. And then I said, if it's not too much trouble, would you mind if I took a picture of you? And she went, oh, no, that's fine. And then her boyfriend, who we've also followed this relationship on Instagram.
Have we?
I have. Anyway, I don't know who he is, but he has taken her heart. They are a big love story, these two. Anyway, says, you don't have to take her picture. I'll take a picture of the two of you.
Aww.
To which I was thinking, are you out of your mind? The last thing I want on this sweaty moment is to stand next to a supermodel on her way to dinner. So anyway, I thought, well, I have to do this because, again, it's on brand.
Yeah.
So I stood.
You can't not take that opportunity.
No,
it doesn't matter.
Well, it did. And then when he was so lovely though. He takes my phone and he snaps off a bunch of pictures and he goes, "Oh, these are great. You are going to love these." And I thought, I feel like a Seinfeld moment here, or no, or it's more of a Curb Your Enthusiasm. And I got back and I saw them and I was like, oh my God, she looks amazing, obviously. And
well, no kidding. She's a professional.
I know. But yeah, so she was lovely. So anyway,
like a world-renowned professional. Like I just think that you just have to like lean into it, be proud of those pictures. You took that opportunity. I don't think no one in the world is going to feel good standing next to a supermodel, no matter what the circumstances are. Like, it's just not going to happen. So I just think you need to just like enjoy the photos.
Yeah. And you know what? And you're right about that. Like, because as it turns out, what if I had been dressed up to go out for dinner and there's no way I'm going to come close to her? At least I've got an out now.
Right.
That there's a reason why I don't look like supermodel Paulina Poroskova.
There's a reason that she's like a legendary.
Yes.
I don't know. Like, I think obviously she's taken perfect pictures no matter what the circumstances are.
And when you see the photos, there's a reason why I'm not world famous for my modeling abilities. But I did do it, and it was, I hate to say it was like a highlight, but anyway, I was giddy. Absolutely giddy.
Oh.
Will you be posting a photo anyway?
I will discreetly send it to people if they want me to. But no, I'm not going to advertise this moment. I'm glad it's there. I have proof, as people say, what's the line? Photos or it didn't happen. So I've got those. And I can show them. But, I'm not like, no, I'm not. I'm not.
Were you the only person that recognized her that you noticed?
Yes. But it wasn't very crowded. It was just so strange. It was like a pretty remote part of like where it turns out because I checked her Instagram after, she was staying in the same part of Lisbon that I was, as a place called Alfama, which is the oldest part of the city. And it's the one, like, it's probably the most cliche because it's got all those, those hills that are all winding around on cobblestones. And so that's where I was staying. And turns out she was staying there too. So she was just, walking from there. But, yeah, I mean, I ate good food. I love fish, so it was great. But I still met Paulina Poroskova. So there you go. But yes, and the wedding, lovely. It was a lovely wedding. I was officiating. So that was something I'd never done before. And it seemed to go well.
You were officiating?
Yeah.
Are you ordained online or something?
The Universal Life Church. I don't know how long it is good for. So if you know anyone who, needs quickly to get married for some reason. So yeah, I married them at this wedding. There was about 100 people there. So,
but wait, like, how can you not know how long you're licensed for? Like, when will you know when to stop?
Oh well, so far I've only been asked to do this once, but I didn't check on the certificate I was sent. I didn't see if it had an expiry date, so I don't know if, like, maybe I need some more qualifications next year. I don't know, right? Like to keep certified.
I feel as though it probably has a long life because it's not like CPR. Like, there's nothing.
Yeah.
Like, no one's life is at stake if you kind of flub up some words or something.
No, and I wrote a little piece and then I looked around for some interesting vows and got them to do vows. And it was, and people were impressed. So that was all I needed. I mean, many of them did not know what I was saying because they only spoke Spanish. But that's not the takeaway here. The takeaway is I had the power invested in me in the Universal Life Church to marry my friends. So that was a highlight too. I'll say
Look
that.
Look at you ticking off all these like check boxes, life check boxes, going to Lisbon, meeting a supermodel,
climbing in a Moorish castle.
Okay, so I Googled Moorish, and it says the term Moorish continues to be widely used to describe the art, architecture, and high culture of Muslim Andalusia and North Africa, dating from the 11th century onward.
Right. But I feel like we use ish a lot, right? So that's why it seemed
British?
like such a funny thing. Well, no, I was thinking more like, it was fun-ish.
My mother-in-law uses the word Moorish to describe something that she wants to eat more of.
See? That's what I'm saying. Ish.
Or like Moorish.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like people, it was fun-ish, like that. So when I saw Moorish Castle, I was like, are you guys sure or not sure? Like, which one is it?
What about that was, I've heard that is Moresque.
But this actually, was
Moresque.
It is a weird feeling though, like to go to something that's that old, like it was built in 1100s. And they did a really good job they had, a very small kind of, not a cafe or by any stretch of the imagination where you could just get a drink, and then some bathroom stalls. But I was standing there having a Diet Pepsi in the Moorish Castle thinking, there's no way. And they were like, what's going to happen one day? Someone's going to just be, after all these battles, after all this nonsense, someone's just going to be standing here wondering why they paid 10 euros to come to the top of this hill and have a Pepsi. It's
a Diet Pepsi.
A Diet Pepsi. In a tin can.
Right, there we go.
Yeah. This isn't quite the same, but when I was at Lake Louise a few years ago, there's like a trail that you can walk up to a tea house. And it just sounds nice. And there's supposed to be a lake up there. But they don't tell you that if you're severely out of shape because you haven't hiked in a while, that you probably shouldn't try it. Because it's like walking upstairs for 2 hours. And when you get to the top, you find out that, it's high summer. The lake is kind of dried up. And also the only kind of tea that they have there is they have to cart all the water up there on a pack horse on a trail. And so it's just kind of like a sad little, paper cup of tea that they give you once you get up there. And there's nothing to see for nearly having a stroke trying to climb up there to see it.
Can't even say it's worth it.
I would, if I was the hotel, I'd post some at the bottom, just being like, this is what it is. Are you sure you want to go?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot for not a lot of reward.
Do you think there should have been Yelp ratings for that hike?
Yeah.
I should have looked it up probably before I went.
But a few years ago when I was in France, I went to Versailles. And, there's a lot of spooky history there, right? I mean, and then you could rent Segways, right? And just go around the grounds there, see where Napoleon lived and, where Marie Antoinette's little house, and you're segwaying over there. And you're just like, wow, a revolution, was spurred on by the excess of this place. And I'm segwaying around now on these courts. You never know what's going to happen in history, I suppose, is my takeaway here.
There'll be jetpacks and people go who would have imagined we would have been sitting here jetpacking around in our flying cars. Right.
Exactly.
We as tourists continue to just bring everything down that we go to.
I know, right? I mean, you try to be as a good tourist as possible, But, at the end of the day, you're tromping around in a Moorish castle drinking a Diet Pepsi, and that's just who you are.
But on the other hand, don't you think that these people, they fought so hard, so we would have, a better, easier life? Drinking
Yeah, but the Moors
Pepsis
were crushed by the
No,
Christians.
not the Moors.
Not the Moors.
There you go.
Not them. No. Maybe there was someone else. But yeah, not the Moors. But yeah. But I did hear it. Someone was telling the story about how in Lisbon was mostly, it was a, very old city, and it was mostly destroyed by a earthquake. And then the earthquake caused a giant fire. This was in 1755. So this massive fire, and then all the people in the town thought, well, we better get away from this horrible earthquake and this fire situation, and they went down to the water, and then 4 tsunamis came. So, yeah. So I do think I had a better trip as a tourist to Lisbon than whatever was going on in 1755.
I feel like right now, I know at least 5 or 6 different people who have gone to Lisbon or have gone to Portugal for a vacation or are planning to go. It just seems like there's some like thing where like Portugal is the place that everybody wants to tick off their list this year.
And I highly recommend it. There's absolutely no downsides to being in Lisbon, I have to say. Unless you don't like seafood. Even then, you can still eat a lot of ham. But yeah, grilled sardines. Have you seen them? And the grilled mackerel are like this big.
Okay, so what was the best thing you ate on your vacation?
Oh, okay. So I found this going along these little tunnels and stuff, I found this little restaurant, and I went in, and they had this stew, and it was a chorizo octopus white bean stew on rice.
That sounds good.
I practically licked the bowl when I was done. It was that good.
Wow.
But I really like seafood. And I do feel a bit bad about the octopus. Every time.
Yeah, I don't eat octopus.
Yeah, every time.
I feel bad about it.
Octopus came up. Somebody in my group of whatevers would go, oh, did you see that movie, My Friend the Octopus? I'm like, no, I'm never going to watch that movie until I stop eating octopus. Like, never. Why would I do that? I'm never going to watch that. The day I decide I won't eat...
will cure you of eating octopus.
Is that what you watched it?
No, I haven't. I've watched other octopus documentaries and seen how intelligent they are, and I don't feel good about eating them. Plus, yeah, I've never really enjoyed it anyway.
Oh, really?
So
I really do.
It was easy to give up.
Oh, man. Also pig. So really what I was eating, this chorizo octopus stew.
All the smartest animals.
All the smartest and loveliest animals, and I'm just, that.
You
that
taste
me.
Smart.
Yeah. So yes, I don't get paid by the Lisbon Tourism Board, but I highly recommend it.
Well, you know what? The best thing it's not the best thing I ate, but the best thing I watched while you were away, Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Oh, segue. Never mind. My segues. Another kind of segue.
Not a thing you ride on. Nope.
No.
You're listening to Pop This. I'm Andrea Gin.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
And I'm Charlie Cho.
Welcome, Charlie.
Hello, Charlie. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We are thrilled to have you with us today to talk about Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the TV series that has been one of our favorite TV shows of 2024 so far. And I think we watched it because you recommended it to Lisa,
yes,
who then proceeded to recommend it to all of us. So
love it.
Thank you very much.
Happy to. Anytime.
I'll just quickly read your bio. Charlie Cho is a radio producer who enjoys watching a lot of TV and has been playing a lot of video games, especially since he bought a PlayStation 5 recently. Congratulations.
Yeah, well
PlayStation
done.
5.
Thank you. And it will be explained at the end of the episode why, unless you want me to explain why now.
Oh, we can wait. We can wait.
Okay, there you go.
Lisa, do you want to read the background?
Yes, I do.
Of this series?
Yeah. Mr. and Mrs. Smith is an American spy television series created by Francesca Sloan and Donald Glover. Glover also stars in a lead role alongside Maya Erskine. Inspired by the 2005 film of the same name, the series premiered on February 2nd, 2024 on Amazon Prime Video. In May of 2024, the series was renewed for a second season.
I was going to say, while I was doing my research for this film, someone called it the Millennial Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And I thought that was quite funny.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah.
Because, it's quite different from the original movie for anyone who has only seen the movie. Yeah. Charlie, do you have the synopsis pulled up? Do you want to read that?
I do. In the first season of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, two lonely strangers land jobs working for a mysterious spy agency that offers them a glorious life of espionage, wealth, world travels, and a dream brownstone in Manhattan. The catch? New identities and arranged marriage as Mr. and Mrs. John and Jane Smith. Now hitched, John and Jane navigate a high-risk mission every week while also facing a new relationship milestone. Their complex cover story becomes even more complicated when they catch real feelings for each other. What's riskier, espionage or marriage?
Ooh. Well said.
Yeah. I mean, okay. I'm just going to say that part of the appeal of this series is the backdrop of everything, of everywhere. Their home is beautiful.
Their outfits.
They go on beautiful locations. Yep. Yeah, their clothing is amazing. It's just like a pure fantasy. Charlie, can you tell us what drew you to the series? Why did you watch it in the first place?
Absolutely. So this may not apply to everybody, but I have been a fan of Donald Glover's other TV shows, Community, Atlanta, and Swarm. And although I love aspects of those shows, if you haven't already seen them, you do love Swarm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did Swarm.
We talked about it. Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. I do suspect, it's just a guess, that you guys love this show more.
Yeah, I think
Swarm?
So. Although I do love Swarm a lot.
Oh, I love this show way more. Way more. Way
There we go.
More. Yeah.
Because I do think, I don't mind a good horror, but I think Swarm is intentionally horrifying. It taps into different feels. Atlanta, there are brilliant, I've watched all of Atlanta. It is a brilliant show, and Francesca Sloan also comes from Atlanta. But I think it is an uneven show. Some of it is amazing, some of it is confusing. I have trouble following the character flow between all the seasons. So Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I figure you guys will enjoy the most. I don't know. Shall we tap into if you guys have feelings about Community?
Oh, love Community. I love that show. That was one of my pandemic rewatches. I just was, I started right from the beginning. I did that with Parks and Rec. I think a lot of people did that with The Office. And I really enjoyed rewatching Community. Absolutely loved. The same thing though. I know there's some uneven seasons because of the whole Dan Harmon is his name situation.
Yes.
But I still feel like it was probably one of my favorite series for sure.
But yeah, I know Chevy Chase left the show and they basically put in Jonathan Banks as the fill-in old guy, and actually totally like him. You see him later on in the Breaking Bad universe, and I dig it.
How familiar were you with the work of Maya Erskine?
I know Pen 15 gets talked about a lot, but I remain fairly unaware of Maya Erskine. So if you want to fill me in, please do.
I haven't watched Pen.
No, neither have I. I feel like that's a huge omission. Everyone loved that show, but yeah, I never got to it. To me, Maya was just one of those quite lucky things. Reading the notes Andrea put together, though, that apparently it was Phoebe Waller-Bridges was supposed to be Mrs. Smith originally, which I loved Maya, and it's hard to imagine the show without her, but I can't help but be intrigued about what Phoebe Waller-Bridges would have brought to it.
I read something about how she left because of creative differences. It wasn't bad or anything. They just kind of agreed to disagree on how they wanted to do it. And she said it's because Donald Glover's a showrunner and he has his way of doing things, and she's a showrunner and she has her way of doing things, and they just weren't compatible. And so they just didn't share a vision for the show.
I loved Maya. I thought she was brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. So have all of us seen the original film from 2005 starring Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt?
Yes.
And what are your feelings on that film?
I enjoyed it at the time, but for the same dumb reasons as a young kid, just like looking for action heroes doing action hero-y things, right? I mean, I did rewatch it immediately after binging the show the first time back in February, but it is not, it does not feel important to watch in comparison to the TV show. Like, it's just not that interesting anymore to me.
Yeah, I mean, do we feel like part of it is that the divorce between Angelina and Brad has been so ugly and acrimonious that it just like, that's part of the reason, like, I don't feel like watching that movie again anymore, just because it's just been like the allegations of abuse and whatnot. And it's just kind of turned like into such an ugly thing that it feels like not great to see them on screen together.
Well, and also the backstory for that movie too is like, were you Team Jen or Team Angelina, right? I mean,
yeah. Can you give us a quick review of that?
Well, yes. So at the time of the making of that movie, Brad Pitt was married to America's sweetheart, Friends star Jennifer Aniston, and they started working on Mr. Angelina Jolie was cast to be next to Brad Pitt. And then gossip got out pretty quickly that they had started something. And then, you know, Brad and Jen announced their separation. And then Angelina and Brad were together. And they had a child and adopted another child. And did a big spread in W magazine where they pretended to be a 50s couple. It was a really very, very public breakup. Very nasty. I mean, I don't know what it didn't get into that sort of division of houses and all of that sort of stuff. And, you know, our friend Jen seemed to keep her chin up and had some lot of dignity in this situation, I have to say, because it was out there and it was very public. And then, I mean, I think I agree with Charlie. It is a forgettable film. I mean, the only reason I saw it is because I love spy movies. That's just the thing. I love them. So, it's not a great movie. It's quite dull, really.
Yeah, I mean, so we're all of the opinion that this TV series is better than the movie.
Yeah, I'm impressed that they even thought to do it when I think about it. Yeah.
I actually think it's pretty subversive that this show took like an IP that seemed to have very different things to say about relationships. Like, I think about in a way what Damon Lindelof did with Watchmen. Like, it took like a admittedly 80s kind of political superhero show and made it about something very different, the Tulsa Massacre. So it's that kind of thing. You take an IP and you subvert it.
Yeah, well, how would you say they've subverted it?
Well, I mean, the film is about very like base, you know, gender roles. Like, oh, it's about a macho guy, and like it's it's Angelina playing house, that kind of stuff. And like the buddy, like the other guy is Vince Vaughn, right? And it's just very basic stuff where you've got these very specifically vulnerable, troubled people who don't love each other because they're hot, and they are hot, but it's just because they're kind of sad, lonely people that aren't very compatible.
Yeah. I mean, how did you feel about this story being told episodically versus a film? Like, Lisa, I know that you're usually very impatient to get to the end of something. Did you find that like the series was the right length for you? Like, how did you feel about it?
You know, so just to go back, it was Charlie who recommended it to me, and I watched the first episode too, and I was like, I liked it, but I really hadn't got into the rhythm of it yet. And then I said to Charlie that he's like, well, did you enjoy this series? And I went, oh, well, I got in a couple of episodes and I kind of stopped. And he went, you got to stay with it. Just go back and try again. And I did. And then I just binged the last few. But I think that, I mean, the movie, the 2005 movie, has got a lot of that very cartoonish violence, right? It's just a constant barrage of, whereas the series isn't, I mean, there's definitely shootings and things, and one episode in particular was quite dark and violent. But for the most part, there's not a whole lot of shooting going on. It's a lot more about the dynamics of the relationship. And sort of once I got into that, I just realized, oh, I'm watching a much more nuanced and fascinating portrayal of two people thrown together. And then I just really got into it and really started liking it an awful lot.
What did you think of the chemistry between Donald Glover and Maya Erskine? Because there's been the movie had so much buzz about like the chemistry between Brangelina, but like, how do you feel like that they did with it here? Because this is like a big burden of chemistry to be placed on this new series.
Charlie, what do you? I mean, you came to
sure,
it. You were the
sure.
big salesman.
No, it's
on
true.
This.
Right. So here's the thing. And I went back and rewatched it. I think the show is designed that the characters are written to be always uncomfortable with each other. I think it is partly designed. I mean, they are lovable. I mean, they love each other at times, but I think you're supposed to sit at the end of certain episodes and go like, oh, is Jane gonna choose to leave John? And then at the end you go like, are they prepared to kill each other? And I think you're supposed to believe each of those moments, even if they're not trying to kill each other, or leave each other, or be lying to each other. I mean, there's a whole conversation to be had about the number of times of why Jane lies constantly to John. But so I think that's built in. I think it's complicated, that it's not like, as I said before, it's not like you're hot and therefore I'm going to love you. So I think it's intentionally complicated. So I think the idea of like the Brangelina chemistry is not scripted. Like I don't think Donald and Maya are going for the Brangelina chemistry.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of felt Maya, I really appreciated the sort of different Asian female representation that she was bringing to this. Because, she had fight scenes, but she's not doing, kung fu in those fight scenes. And she's, obviously an attractive leading character in this film, but she's not, conventionally attractive. And, even the way that she talks, she's kind of, mumbling throughout the thing. She's not a likable character. She's kind of mean to people and a bit of a misanthrope. And so I just appreciated this kind of multi-dimensional Asian female character that she's presenting, because I don't think we often get to see that kind of person on screen.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good assessment. I think that, in terms of chemistry, I think that it was very challenging what they did, and I think managed to pull off, because they had to pretend to just meet, right? And so be thrown in that way. And then I guess the question you'd ask is, did they just hook up because they were bored and they were stuck in the same house? And as we said, you're attractive, I'm attractive. Let's see what happens here. And and they were pretending to be married already. So that was a weird built-in kind of thing they had to play with, they had to present as a married couple, and that was something they needed to do. But in terms of her, and him being this lovely man who talks to his mother all the time, and her being, okay, so I think I outgrew this, but I was a sociopath as a child, was very funny. I mean, and then I think that, it's almost getting a bit tired, but the couple with a therapist, I think if you were to make a supercut of how many times I've seen that in a movie or a TV show, it's quite a lot. So I love Sarah Paulson. I love the way they were tricking her into thinking they were software engineers, and her going, wow, there's a lot of drama. It's software engineering.
It's not life and death.
It's not life and death.
And one thing that I did get from rewatching the film and reading about the film is it is framed as a therapy session, and apparently that was the original inspiration for the film was real life friends of Simon Kinberg, I think is the screenplayers, name, real life conversations that inspired the film Mr. and Mrs. Smith Therapy. So,
yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense that they would put that in, especially when they start to have all these different problems, and it did segue. I really thought there was a lot of magical editing in this too, especially that episode, that when they're with the therapist and, you know, we see him in that meeting those guys and they're playing poker, and like that was so clever. And the going the back and forth. So it all worked and things. Plus, I mean, I do love, my friend is a therapist and I like to tease her a lot. Like, you know, about does she have to wear statement necklaces, and basically does she have to be like a really, really quintessential white woman? And I thought they nailed that really well with her anecdotes about, traveling in Africa or wherever she was. Like,
I Googled it. That artifact is from a real place in Turkey. So
Turkey there. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
I thought so. In like, I think the most thing I loved about this show, and I think what happens when I really find myself attaching to some show, is that they get all the details right. And I think that's what, and I don't know, I guess Donald Glover has some amazing pull, but when you look at the guest stars on this show, the amount of, like, they were in Europe, for goodness sake, right? I mean.
Yeah, so their guest star list includes Michaela Cole, Ron Perlman, John Turturro, Sharon Horgan, and Parker Posey.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Like, what was your favorite guest appearance on this series?
For me, it was easy. Ron Perlman, who you may know is show co-creator Francesca Sloane's father-in-law. He was an easy pick.
Not. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. All right.
Not the only family member on the show. We'll get to Donald Glover's mom later, but Ron Perlman, the whiny old man baby with a dark past. He was all over his episode, just demanding your attention. And he delivers like baby lines with like old man gravitas, like, I'm going to bed. This place sucks. Ron Perlman, he's my highlight.
I really loved their chase scene that they did with him through the streets of Lake Como or wherever they were. Like, it was like kind of watching like a Born Identity, but with, you know, people who aren't, I guess they are trained assassins, but they don't seem like as physical like monsters as Jason Bourne type.
No, but there was a high body count in that episode, I have to say.
They're kind of like struggling to get over walls and stuff. But
did you hear Maya Erskine credit Tom Cruise's running technique? She would do the big arm pumping thing to look like she was running fast.
I noticed that. Yeah.
Because she admitted that, you know, smoking, she hasn't taken care of her lung capacity. So she actually runs slower than Donald Glover. So it's funny that his character has asthma. So Donald Glover's character, John, is actually the worst runner.
That's funny.
I have to say, I mean, I will go with Ron Perlman as well for these guest stars, but also just because I think almost as a standalone episode, that one was perfect. I mean, they used that, like you said, he was talking like a child, to explore are they going to have kids together? Are they going to be a real married couple? How he bought her that house. And she was like, what are you doing? Like the little asides, like, you have no right to surprise me with a house. Like, and he was all, what? I can't surprise my wife. Like, I just thought it was so clever the way they did that episode. And then the way it just ended so anticlimactically, they're just, you know, out there, gets in a seaplane and off he goes, right? Like, it was really, that was almost a perfect episode.
Yeah. I really liked Parker Posey's appearance.
Yeah.
She was in at least a couple episodes.
Yep.
Like, she's had such a long and interesting career, and she was just like perfect in this role.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Agree. And that episode too, just that wherever it is, whatever they had to do and whatever it was, like somewhere it was really, really kind of spooky. The fact that they knew not to tell us really what happened. Your own
with the machete, how they had to survive. Yes.
With the machete, yeah.
That was, speaking of horrifying, you're right. That was probably the most horrifying part of the show. You see the stunned looks of them with dried blood all over their bodies. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But I also thought it was just so clever how, like, each episode, I guess you're technically supposed to be engrossed in, like, whatever assignment that they're supposed to be doing. But it's actually not about that at all. It's just becomes about, like, you wondering what's happening with their relationship, and their task kind of becomes almost like a side.
Yeah.
Well, look at the
Side
episode
project.
titles, right? Like, it's like first date, second date. Are we going to have kids? It's not about that time we were skiing. Like, that's never the title of the episode. So
Yeah, I just like it's so clever because it's like it's a crime procedural which like everybody knows and everybody's used to and you can get into the rhythm of, but it actually is so much more than that because you just become so engrossed in these characters. And it's not because they're hot like the original Mr. and Mrs. Smith or like they're doing crazy action scenes. It's because they have like interesting conversations and you're sort of watching their relationship grow and they're funny. And like part of the reason, you know, like I think that this series has a special, you know, sort of spin to it is that both Donald Glover and Maya Erskine come from comedy backgrounds.
Oh, good
Skin.
point. Yeah, yeah.
And speaking of dynamics, have you guys watched several interviews with Donald and Maya? They seriously have chemistry. So if they wanted their characters to have chemistry, they've got it.
They do have it is kind of when you see them interviewed though, like I think you sent us that clip from Jimmy Kimmel the other night. And they do have a brother-sister kind of teasingness to them, which,
fair enough.
You know what I mean?
Which may or may not be appropriate for this.
But, you know, they had that real sort of like, you know, here, like, so Maya's pregnant and she's going to have a girl and Donald Glover has 3 kids and they're all boys. And she's going, you know, everyone who found out I was pregnant was all, oh, congratulations, how exciting. And the first thing Donald said to me was, I want to steal your baby.
and seriously, you Google around the internet, like pretty much any interview with the two of them, they are enjoyable. Like they're, you know, I don't love Jimmy Fallon, but when they're on Jimmy Fallon, that's not a fun interview to see.
So at the end of the series, sorry, this is a spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't reached there yet, but it's kind of left open as to what their fate is at the end of the series.
And also they're saying that the season has been renewed, but they're not necessarily coming back. Yeah.
What are your personal feelings on like what you want to see happen in season 2, Charlie?
Oh, okay. So 2 different things, what I want and what I think. I guess what I want is I do want to see them come back because I think we've established the evolution of their relationship. And although it's not really important about Hi in the company, they definitely tease some things about them. I am open to your theories, but I think, and I'm going to call Parker Posey's character Jane 2. I think Jane 2 is wrong. I don't think Hi knows everything. I don't think Hi predicts what's going on. But I want to learn more about the company and Hi.
Lisa, what are your thoughts and feelings about season 2?
They're rambling, but one thing I do think that the show made an effort to set up the fact that there are lots of Mr. and Mrs. Smiths out there. They're all, you know, like they're stationed all over the world. So in that way, there's such potential for this show to go in such cool places, right? Like White Lotus does with a new cast every series, right? I mean, I love these 2. You know, do I feel like, you know, it would be sort of touching to see them both die together, especially when they, you know, Jane was finally being able to connect, like didn't want John to die. I mean, John had already expressed that he, you know, wanted to have children with her and everything. So I mean, either way, but I just do think there's a lot of possibility with what they've created to have these really interesting couples stationed all over the world, involved in these things. So, I mean, I think it's win-win for us, the audience, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. And I kind of initially thought like, oh yeah, it would be good if they did that. Like they just handed it off to a different couple every season and we could follow them. But then part of me thinks like, will they ever find a couple that is as good in these roles?
I know.
Two? Like, I don't know. It might just be disappointing and annoying to have like kind of lesser people in the role, or people like we're less interested in, is what I mean.
The thing too is that it's a lot about Donald Glover because he's going out on tour as his Childish Gambino, and I just don't ever want that man to stop creating things. You never know what's next, and I just feel like I don't know how many seasons of Community he did, but that was quite a while ago. In terms of his creative evolution and who he is now. I just feel like I want to see what else he has in him. And I don't know if that's do the same thing again. Like, I'd like to think that there would be some new element to it that, like he becomes high, or I don't know, or I don't know, but something sure. Like a little bit bigger that takes it up a notch.
And although it came to the show with Donald Glover, like I do want to give it credit to Francesca Sloan. Like seriously, she has writing credits on 6 of the 8 episodes, and Donald Glover really only worked on the first and last one. So I think if it's in her hands, and she's been doing a lot of interviews as well, I'm probably feeling good about it.
Yeah, and I mean, let's face it, like I guess in the last episode is the first time we see them like fight each other in the series. So that was kind of fascinating, but also like part of my horror in the last episode was that knowing that they were going to destroy their beautiful brownstone. I was just like, oh no, their beautiful house. Don't, and like they just wreck it. Right. And so like, we can't go back to the brownstone.
No.
Can we talk about Paul Dano as the hot neighbor?
Oh, I know. That's so great too. Yeah. I know. He was so fun.
Yeah.
Were they filming in real brownstones? Because I am so envious of their apartments. I can't even I just don't even know what to think.
I know. That I think that, like that's why there's this like talk about it being like the millennial Mr. and Mrs. Smith, because that apartment was like perfect millennial like dream decor, like every detail about it. It's just like this
stunning,
perfect dream place. Yeah, and then like, now that it's gone, I'm kind of like, maybe we should all just move on. The brownstone's gone.
As a quick aside, I just want to say that one of the more ridiculous, but I'll never forget how funny that whole little storyline was around, I think it was like the second episode or the third, where John and Jane are they go to that open air market. And they meet one of John's old girlfriends. And then she says she only has one hand. And he was...
It is genius.
It was... And you could see him going, I would have noticed that, wouldn't I? But she planted it and she was so good. And that was one of the funniest things I've ever seen on a show.
Do you guys pause shows when something like that happens? Because you go back. You cannot see her hand in any of those shots until the end of the episode.
Yeah. It's right, because she's holding things to her chest the whole time. Yeah. No,
the way the shots cropped off.
Yeah. And then he's sitting there with those pictures looking for her hand. I just thought that was one of the funniest things, which also, again, the show don't tell, like in terms of her being a sociopath. That's pretty twisted.
Yeah. Charlie, do you have any further thoughts or comments that you want to make before we wrap this up?
Not a lot more, except on rewatch, the writing is so good. And I know, Lisa, maybe you prefer films over TV shows, but the interweaving of all the episodes, like they plant ideas in early episodes and they revisit them again. It's like the marbles. Like if you go back and watch the time she drops her first marble, like it's recalled
Right.
at the very end. So wow, it's a really well written show.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. I mean, I think that all of the shows like Swarm and Atlanta have all of that, has that in common for all of them. Like they're extremely well written, all of them. So we've come to the end of our conversation about this TV series, and I think I know the answer to this, but do we think Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the TV series, pops?
Oh, it pops so much. I hope everyone gets it. Like I've seen some. I saw heard one reviewer on another TV podcast I was listening to that felt like it was slight, and I completely disagree. I think it's as much prestige TV as anything else. I really do.
I absolutely think it personally does for me, and yet, I know some of the people that we know in common have not made it through this series, and I do understand. It may be just same as you, Lisa. It's a slow burn. Like if you don't get hooked by the first couple of episodes, it's a little slow. So I understand, but I do hope, as I had mentioned to you, stick it out. It gets really good.
Yeah, agreed. Yep.
Yeah, I agree. The series pops for me. I did want to mention for any cat lovers out there.
Oh yeah.
The cat.
Yeah.
There's a cat.
I knew that was going to happen.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
But I don't think there's like a website where there's a website where
For the dog, I know. Does the dog die? Yeah, I know.
I think it applies. I think they do it for all animals. So I think there's a big rating for Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3. So
yeah.
Yep. Not easy watching at all.
Yeah, that happens in the last episode if you want to fast forward through it. But yeah, thank you so much, Charlie, for coming on this podcast.
Thank you. And thank you for recommending it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Anytime. And thanks so much. It's super fun. An hour flies by. People don't know. Man,
Doesn't
that
it?
hour flies by.
We like to leave our podcasts on things that we recommend. Charlie, as our guest, do you want to go first?
Absolutely. I teased it at the beginning. So the reason why I bought myself a PlayStation 5 is I said that I would play The Last of Us Part 2, the game, before Season 2 drops. And I did, and it is amazing. I know there are unique things to the video game that will be hard to replicate in a TV show. But when they say that you can do Season 2, Season 3, Season 4 of a TV show, I believe them. So I have high expectations for the TV show based on the video game.
So hold on. You bought an entire video game system to play this game in order to
No. That was the timing. I knew I was eventually going to buy the PlayStation 5, but the timing was hooked to them starting to release still images from the TV show. I go, okay. I know some things about the game, but in order to avoid spoiling things too much, I better play the game. So I did. It's amazing.
So what you're saying is their cunning marketing plan worked.
It is. And actually, I do think about, I don't think you guys are a video gaming podcast, but I think story-wise, I think you guys could easily appreciate the story of the game, which hopefully will carry over to the TV show. Yeah. Great story.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that recommendation, Charlie. Lisa, what are you recommending?
Yeah, okay, so this is a weird one, and I fully expect to be laughed at, and it's okay. I just didn't find anything new to inspire me on Netflix, and I was sitting there looking, and all of a sudden I saw a movie that is just shy of 30 years old, and I'd never seen before, and I watched Seven. Speaking of Brad Pitt.
Whoa.
I've never seen it. I know.
Very good and influential, as you know now, right?
Yes.
You can see its influences everywhere.
It was really interesting to watch it from that perspective, because if I'd watched it at the time, it would have just been, oh, what's this? But in fact, now it's probably gone full circle, which is influenced, made fun of cycle.
But I've never seen it. What what is the influence it's had? Like, what is it known for?
Well, David Fincher. So it's very dark, and I think even though he officially isn't using Trent Reznor as the composer yet, there is some Nine Inch Nails music in it. So it's very dark, it's very gritty, it's very sad. David Fincher went on and made other films like that. Like, I loved Manhunter, that was on Netflix. That was one of my favorite series. But there's like kind of scratch the graphics. And also, just in terms of pacing, it's a really well structured movie. Like, it just it's 2 hours. And as you know, that's very upsetting to me.
And what is it about?
A serial killer.
Okay.
And so it's that
the
trope
number 7.
that you know. Yeah. The trope of the Morgan Freeman's the cop that's about to retire, and Brad Pitt's the rookie working in homicide.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So but 30 years ago, we weren't like rolling our eyes at that trope as much as we are now.
Right. But you still recommend it. It's still worth watching in 2024.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm going out on a limb recommending 7, but
and of the genre, does it not hold up as still one of the best? Like, I think it is one of the best of the genre for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Excellent. I'm going to recommend a show that will be easy to slide into if you just have finished Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It's Poker Face. It's available on Gem, starring Natasha Lyonne. It is also like an episodic, it's kind of like Littlest Hobo style. Like, she is a casino worker who is like, has to go on the run. It all gets set up in the first episode, which is kind of an anomaly. And then she like hits the road. And she's this casino worker that has the ability to tell when people are lying. And so she can tell if someone's done a crime because she knows they're lying. And then she sets about trying to figure it out. And every episode is like her driving to a different town and discovering a different crime that she has to solve. And she's very funny, and it's just another really well-written series, and you'll just get hooked. Like, you have to sort of get into to the end of episode 2 to sort of understand the show and how it's going to work. But it's well worth it. It's one of the best shows I've seen lately.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Along with this one.
And that's on Gem,
100%
isn't it?
agree.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I think it was bounced around. I think it was on City TV Plus for a while. That's how I saw it. But yeah, I think I got into that because of Russian Doll with Natasha Lyonne as well. But it's wild because some people might think that knowing if people are lying is like a superpower. It does not always work to her benefit because she doesn't know why people are lying. And some people learn that she knows if they're lying, so they kind of work out how they phrase things carefully. So, 100%, Poker Face.
And it's yeah, exactly. And it's like a fresh story every week because it's like her, but in a completely different place with all new characters every week. So
the best guest stars.
Yeah, Love Boat for the millennials. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you very much, Charlie, for joining us.
Thank you so much, Charlie.
I loved hearing your thoughts on this.
All right.
Thanks for recommending it to us in the first place. Like, we loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so where can people reach out to you? Are you on any of the socials or
no, don't reach out to me.
Say hi?
No,
Okay.
Just you see me,
That's
you
fine
wave
too.
at me. That's it. Yeah. But hey, I hope you enjoy this podcast because it was fun making it. So there you go.
I'll promise to bring Charlie's recommendations to the podcast, so it will get to everyone.
Okay.
It just you won't be able to find him. We can find him.
We're the only ones.
Yeah.
showing my location? That's still private.
Are you sure you're not high? But yeah.
Oh, I love it. Good stuff.
And for anyone listening, if you want to reach out to us, you can email us at popdiscollective@gmail.com. We're out there in plain sight on social media if you should want to contact us.
And a big thanks to Andrea Gin, who is our producer and co-host here. And again, Charlie, thanks so much for sharing with us. It was fantastic.
Thanks.
Come
it was super
again.
fun. Okay.
Okay. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.